Alzheimer's disease. Imagine your mind as a vast library where memories and knowledge are stored like books on shelves. Alzheimer's disease is like an invisible force that gradually removes these books, starting with the newest editions and eventually reaching the oldest collections. At its core, Alzheimer's is a progressive brain disorder where proteins called beta amyloid and tau build up abnormally in the brain, forming plaques and tangles. Think of these as toxic waste that clogs the brain's communication networks. Just as a city would struggle if its roads became increasingly blocked, the brain's neurons can't communicate effectively. The disease typically begins in the hippocampus, affects other areas controlling language and reasoning. As it spreads, it affects other areas controlling language, reasoning, and eventually basic functions like walking and swallowing. It's like watching a city's infrastructure slowly shut down, one neighborhood at a time. What makes Alzheimer's particularly profound is how it affects not just the individual, but their entire social network. The person remains physically present while their essence gradually fades away. It's as if they're slowly moving into a parallel universe where the present and past blend together unpredictably. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, ADHD. Picture your mind as a television with hundreds of channels, but the remote control is broken. This is what living with ADHD feels like. It's not simply about being distracted, it's about having a brain wired differently from the start. ADHD involves differences in brain chemistry, particularly in neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine. These chemicals are like traffic signals in your brain, helping to regulate attention, motivation, and impulse control. In ADHD, these signals don't work as effectively, making it harder to direct and maintain focus. The disorder manifests in three main ways in attention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. However, ADHD isn't simply a deficit. Many people with ADHD can hyperfocus on topics they find interesting, showing that the issue isn't an inability to focus, but rather difficulty in controlling where and when that focus occurs. Think of an ADHD brain as a high-performance sports car with sensitive acceleration but weaker brakes. It's capable of incredible speed and power, but controlling and directing that power can be challenging. This unique wiring can lead to both challenges and advantages, often making people with ADHD highly creative and innovative thinkers.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Autism Spectrum Disorder, ASD. Imagine experiencing the world as if you're in a foreign country, where you don't speak the language and all the cultural norms are different. This is how many people with SD experience daily life. It's not a processing error, but rather a fundamentally different operating system. ASD affects how the brain processes sensory information and social cues. Think of the brain as a mixing board in a recording studio. In neurotypical brains, this board automatically balances different input sounds, sights, social signals. In ASD, this automatic balancing doesn't occur in the same way, leading to either over or undersensitivity to various stimuli. The spectrum in ASD is crucial to understand. It's not a linear scale from mild to severe, but rather a constellation of traits that can appear in different combinations and intensities. Some individuals might be highly verbal but struggle with social cues, while others might be nonverbal but have exceptional abilities in specific areas. What makes ASD particularly fascinating is that it often comes with unique strengths: pattern recognition, detail orientation, and the ability to think outside conventional boundaries. It's not just a different way of processing information, but often a different way of seeing and understanding the world entirely. Schizophrenia. Consider your mind as a complex reality processing machine. In schizophrenia, this machine begins to create its own version of reality, blending the real and the imagined in ways that can be both terrifying and confusing for the person experiencing it. At its heart, schizophrenia involves disruptions in brain processing, resulting in hallucinations and delusions. It's like having a radio that picks up multiple stations at once, making it difficult to distinguish which broadcast is real. This results in hallucinations, false sensory experiences, delusions, false beliefs, and disorganized thinking. The condition affects various brain systems, particularly those involving dopamine and glutamate, crucial for processing reality. Think of it as having your brain's reality filters malfunction, allowing information that should be filtered out to flood in, while sometimes blocking information that should get through. What makes schizophrenia particularly complex is that it often emerges in early adulthood, dramatically altering a person's life trajectory. It's like having the rules of reality suddenly change without warning or explanation. Obsessive-compulsive disorder (OCD). Imagine your mind as a stuck record player, repeatedly playing the same fragment of a song. Now imagine that this song carries a warning of imminent danger that you can only prevent through specific actions. This is the daily reality for someone with OCD. The OCD manifests through two main components: obsessions, compulsions, and false alarms. Think of obsessions as false alarms in the brain's threat detection system, and compulsions as attempts to silence these alarms. However, like pressing a snooze button, the relief is only temporary. The disorder involves disruptions in the brain's error detection system, the orbital frontal cortex, and basal ganglia. It's as if the brain's "something is wrong" signal gets stuck in the on position, creating an endless loop of doubt and the need for certainty. What makes OCD particularly challenging is that the person often recognizes their thoughts and behaviors as irrational. It's like being trapped in a game where you know the rules are nonsensical, but breaking them feels impossible. Post-traumatic stress disorder (PTSD). Picture your brain as a video editor that normally processes and stores experiences smoothly. In PTSD, a traumatic event breaks this editing system, leaving raw, unprocessed footage that can play back at random, feeling as real as when it first occurred. PTSD occurs when a traumatic experience overwhelms the brain's natural ability to process and integrate memories. The amygdala, hippocampus, and prefrontal cortex show altered function. It's like having your brain's alarm system stuck on high alert. The disorder manifests through four main symptom clusters: intrusive memories, avoidance, negative changes, and physical reactions. Think of it as your brain trying to prevent future trauma by remaining constantly vigilant, but in doing so, it creates a prison of fear and anxiety. What makes PTSD unique is how it transforms the way the brain processes not just memories of the trauma, but current experiences as well. The world becomes viewed through a lens of potential threat, changing how a person interacts with their environment and relationships. Major depressive disorder. Imagine your brain as a complex chemical factory where happiness, motivation, and energy are produced. In major depressive disorder (MDD), this factory experiences a severe production shutdown, affecting not just emotions, but every aspect of mental functioning. The disorder goes far beyond simple sadness. It fundamentally alters how the brain processes information, emotions, and memories. Think of it as wearing dark sunglasses that not only dim the light, but also alter the colors and shapes of everything you see. The world becomes distorted, with positive experiences muted and negative ones amplified. On a biological level, MDD involves disruptions in multiple neurotransmitter systems, particularly serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine. It's like having your brain's emotional regulation system malfunction, while simultaneously affecting memory formation, concentration, and decision-making abilities. The hippocampus, responsible for memory formation, can actually shrink during prolonged depression episodes. What makes this disorder particularly insidious is its impact on cognitive function. People often experience what's called cognitive fog, where thinking becomes slower, memory becomes unreliable, and concentration becomes extremely difficult. Simple tasks can feel overwhelming, as if the brain's processing power has been severely reduced. The disorder also creates a self-reinforcing cycle. The cognitive symptoms make it harder to engage in activities that might help combat depression, while the emotional symptoms make it harder to believe that improvement is possible. It's like being trapped in a room where the lights are dimming and the exit keeps moving further away. Most profoundly, MDD alters one's sense of self and future perspective. The brain loses its ability to imagine positive scenarios or recall happy memories, creating a state where the depression feels both permanent and all-encompassing. This time distortion is one of the most challenging aspects of the disorder to overcome. Bipolar disorder. Think of your mind as a weather system that normally experiences gentle changes between sunny and cloudy days. In bipolar disorder, this system becomes extreme, swinging between devastating hurricanes, mania, and freezing Arctic conditions, depression, with little middle ground. The disorder manifests in dramatic episodes that affect not just mood, but energy levels, cognitive function, and behavior. During manic phases, it's as if the brain's accelerator is stuck at full throttle. Thoughts race at incredible speeds, creativity soars, and judgment becomes impaired. People might feel invincible, leading to risky decisions and behavior that can have long-lasting consequences. The depressive episodes are like having all systems shut down. Unlike regular depression, bipolar depression often comes with a feeling of heaviness and lethargy so profound that even basic movements become challenging. It's as if the body and mind are moving through thick mud. What makes this disorder particularly complex is its impact on identity. People often struggle to know which version of themselves is real: the high-achieving, energetic person during mania, or the withdrawn, struggling person during depression. This creates significant challenges in maintaining stable relationships and long-term plans. The cognitive aspects are equally fascinating. During manic phases, the brain operates at super speed, making connections both relevant and irrelevant at an incredible rate. Memory formation can be irregular, with some moments crystal clear and others completely lost. Decision-making becomes impaired not because of confusion, but because of an overflow of confidence and ideas. Most intriguingly, some people with bipolar disorder experience mixed states, where features of both mania and depression occur simultaneously. Imagine feeling the despair of depression combined with the agitation and energy of mania. It's like having your emotional accelerator and brake pedals pressed at the same time. Generalized anxiety disorder (GAD). Picture your brain's threat detection system as a highly sensitive alarm. In GAD, this alarm is perpetually set to its highest sensitivity, turning even the smallest uncertainties into blaring emergency signals that can't be ignored. The disorder affects both cognitive and physical systems. The amygdala becomes hyperactive, while the prefrontal cortex struggles to maintain control. This creates a constant state of physiological arousal. Imagine your body being stuck in fight or flight mode, with stress hormones continuously flooding your system. What makes GAD particularly challenging is its self-reinforcing nature. The brain becomes conditioned to see worry as a form of problem-solving or prevention, creating a false sense that worrying is productive or protective. This leads to what psychologists call meta-worry, worrying about worrying, creating layers of anxiety that can feel impossible to escape. Huntington's disease. Imagine your brain as an incredibly complex computer network that's experiencing progressive, systematic failure in multiple systems simultaneously. Huntington's disease (HD) is like having a genetic program that gradually shuts down various brain functions in a predictable but devastating sequence. This inherited disorder causes the progressive breakdown of nerve cells in specific areas of the brain. Think of it as dominoes falling in slow motion. Once the process begins, it continues inexorably, affecting movement, thinking, and emotional regulation. What makes it particularly tragic is that symptoms typically appear during prime adult years, between ages 30 and 50. The cognitive decline in HD is unique because it affects both thinking abilities and personality. The disease targets the striatum and frontal cortex first, areas crucial for impulse control and decision-making. It's like having your brain's executive management system gradually dissolve, affecting both how you think and who you are as a person. What makes HD especially challenging is its predictable genetic nature. Children of affected parents have a 50% chance of inheriting the disease. This knowledge creates profound psychological impacts long before any symptoms appear. Imagine living with the knowledge that your brain might begin to fail at any time. It's like having a time bomb with an unknown detonation date. The cognitive changes often begin subtly: problems with organization, multitasking, or emotional regulation. As the disease progresses, these changes become more pronounced, affecting memory, judgment, and eventually basic functions. It's like watching a complex machine slowly lose its parts, with each loss making the entire system more unstable. Most poignantly, people with HD often maintain awareness of their decline for a long time, creating a unique form of psychological suffering. They can observe their own cognitive and physical abilities slipping away while being powerless to stop the progression. The cognitive impact extends far beyond just worried thoughts. GAD affects concentration, decision-making, and memory formation. When the mind is constantly scanning for threats, it becomes difficult to focus on present tasks or to store new information effectively. It's like trying to read a book while simultaneously monitoring multiple security cameras. Perhaps most profoundly, GAD alters one's relationship with the future. Instead of seeing the future as a realm of possibilities, it becomes a source of potential disasters. This fundamental shift in perspective can impact every decision, from major life choices to minor daily activities, creating a constrained and cautious approach to life.